So I'm going to be the cool kid that stands on the side of the podium here today. One, because I put a lot of intentionality into this outfit, and you should see the whole thing. But also just because I'm short and I don't want to be a floating head above this podium. So I'm Cammy Watkins, and I work for an organization called Inclusive Communities. We've been around since 1938, so we are an 85-year-old organization. I am not 85 years old. I have not been there since the beginning. But for those of you that may not be familiar with our organization, our mission is to confront prejudice, bigotry, and discrimination. We are a nonprofit 501c3 human relations organization. We meet that mission through promoting community building, institutional transformation, and also leadership development. So I'm going to start this presentation with the end in mind at the beginning. And I first also want to make sure that we have a common language and an understanding of when I talk about shared leadership and sharing power, what we define that is. So these are 4 basic frameworks of what shared leadership and the shared leadership model are about. And essentially it's around leadership is broadly distributed amongst multiple people. Decision making is decentralized from one individual. It is also recognizing that diverse and unique perspectives exist throughout your organization, not just within the executive level. And then lastly, that complex issues truly require input and collective input from others that are closest to the problem. We talked about get more proximate to the problem to find the solutions towards it. That's really what shared leadership is about. So decision making and quality of implementation are improved when we invest deeper in shared leadership. So there are kind of 5 benefits or 5 takeaways or lessons that we at Inclusive Communities have really learned from our shared leadership model. Now, one key thing I want to point out is that we officially formalized this form of leadership in 2021, but we've been implementing aspects of distributed and shared leadership, or also known as collective or networking leadership, since 2018. So in those 5 years or so that we've been utilizing these processes, these are kind of our top 5 lessons. And I'm going to walk through what each of these mean and some of the kind of ways in which we put these practices into place. So first of which being that shared leadership enhances our resilience and adaptability as an organization. It allows us to navigate turbulence and uncertainty in a more sustainable way for individuals as well as for the organization as a whole. So and I'll point out to you, each of these photos that you're going to see are actual photos of my organization, so they're not stock photos. We have great photographers on our team. We, in the pandemic, became a system shock for everybody. And that was equally for us, but it also really became a catalyst for us to really activate the way in which we do our work today. So with the fact that we had already kind of implemented remote working policies and practices where we go to our staff to identify what do they need to know, what do they need for their mental well-being, as well as in order to do the best work that they needed possible, we were able to transition our internal operations within 3 days. Upon the announcement of the pandemic, and then we were actually able to shift and adjust our entire external programming within 2 months. Next, leveraging power. So shared leadership really allows us to leverage the power of the individuals in leadership, and it helps us to move further into the spaces where the work needs to be done more intentionally, and it allows us to truly pass on what we have as a brand 85-year organization to others. So we really invest in external vendors that are trying to elevate individuals that are BIPOCs, women, and local small businesses, because we recognize that we have the ability to be a client just as much as we have the ability to be a vendor. So if we want to elevate others and pass power onto those vendors and individuals and companies that aren't often sought after or don't have the same brand or big reach that a larger company with more capacity and research, we have to be the ones to utilize our finances to support them. So we have about 75% of our suppliers are women-owned, BIPOC-owned, or small businesses of individuals with chronic illness or disabilities. 75%, and that was with intention. And one of the things that I'm proud of that we just recently learned, 2 caterers that we utilize more regularly and have been since about 2021, just were able to move into brick and mortar spaces after their partnerships with us. A demonstration of equity. So Shared leadership is a demonstration of the equity that we seek to build within the community. Very often we see in nonprofit organizations that purport to be working on inclusion and diversity only have that diversity within their front lines or within their middle management, but their executive leadership tends to be homogenous and mostly white. So our effort and our focus on co-directorship, for those of you that maybe first your introduction to us was that we were a co-director, and so this is a photo of myself and my former co-ED, Maggie Wood, who retired in May. When we moved into the co-directorship model, which is just an aspect of shared leadership that we decided to implement, we don't say that it's necessarily prescriptive to others, but we did it because we knew, particularly in the fields of nonprofit, that there is a power dynamic between white women and women of color that often leads to power hoarding and that kind of gatekeeping, which stops women of color from being able to advance and truly step into a truly equitable space of leadership and power. So when we moved into the co-directorship, we did it with the intention that Maggie and I would fully share equal power. We did not have the titles of co-director. We each stood as executive directors. And one of the things that was really important for Maggie especially was to ensure that I had equal pay to her. Even though I came in as a junior leader, it was important that I didn't have any kind of junior leadership status. So in the transition, and this actually became a natural succession plan for us, was that in that transition, I had the same amount of authority and power and access that she had from the day that she started to the point where she left. And then moving into shared leadership is really about redistributing power, and it allows us to share that power with all the staff on our team, regardless of their title. And at the heart of shared leadership is that intentional leadership development and relationship cultivation. So one of the things, we strongly invest in professional development. Our human capital is the most important piece of our team, and I expect every person on my team to be able to step in and lead and be an ambassador and representative for this organization. I need to make sure that I have given them the tools and the skills to do so. So we actually have external coaches, executive coaches, or care coaches for every single one of the staff members on my team, as well as we have an internal coach who works with our staff to ensure that we're working and does all of our professional development and leadership development within the organization. All right, and then lastly is our vision mission alignment. So shared leadership allows us to ensure that our leadership intentions are in alignment with our mission and our vision and our values, and it promotes more authentic leadership, and it really allows us to ensure that our walk is talking the thing that our talk talks. So if we wanted to make sure that this isn't just something that happens during my tenure and my time in leadership, it's something that continues throughout. So we have institutionalized our leadership model through our culture map. And the saying here of clear language and expectations allow for shared understanding and a more balanced and equitable power dynamic in the workplace. We all want to make sure we're on the same path. We created the culture map. This is our employee handbook, and it came from a staff member telling us in their exit interview that the employee handbook was more of an employer handbook, and it wasn't really about helping them be successful. And we're like, you're right. So we changed it. And we've made this now where our handbook is more around how can you be successful in the organization as opposed to how do you not get fired for doing things wrong. Our corrective action process is more about accountability than it is about punishment. And we wanted to institutionalize this so that we continue to do it throughout the tenure regardless of who's in leadership. So with that, here are a couple resources for you. The frameworks that we came up with that we utilize for our shared leadership model came from these two books. There's also an article in Nonprofit Quarterly from a lawyer's perspective, because there's always, well, how does that work? How do you make decisions? Get those questions all the time. This article explores that, and there's some other resources there if you're interested in investing in this model. And I totally went over time, so this one didn't work out, but thank you.